The secret to Gary Rossington's resilience. Gary Rossington died with his guitar strap on, metaphorically at least, and he wouldn't have had it any other way. By all rights, the last surviving original member of Lynyrd Skynyrd, who died Sunday at the age of 71, a little more than 4 months before the band was due to start its sharp-dressed Simple Man tour with ZZ Top on July 21, should have been enjoying his golden years in quiet and away from the free bird he helped build, fishing and spending time with his grandchildren. Rossington began having heart problems in the mid-2010s, and his ailments would occasionally result in the cancellation or postponement of concerts. Despite that, however, he never thought of unplugging and stepping away, even if, like foreigners Mick Jones, he gradually became a guest star in the band he founded nearly 60 years ago in Jacksonville, Florida. "I just take every day on faith," Rossington told this writer back when he and his wife, Skynyrd backup singer Dale Krantz Rossington, released the album Take It on Faith in 2016. "I guess when it's my time, I'm ready. I'd rather be playing and living life up than, like Neil Young said, it's better to burn out than to fade away. I'd rather just burn out in the next 10 years than sit in a rocking chair and look at the trees blowing in the wind. It's just in my blood, you know? I'm just an old guitar player, and we spent our whole lives and the 10,000 hours of working to understand how to play and do it. So I think once you've got something going for yourself, you should keep it up and keep your craft going. When you retire, what's next? I like to fish, but how much of that can you do, right? So I want to keep doing what I do now and go wherever it takes me." Rossington did consider retirement at one point, but Krantz Rossington said it was a passing thought. "He's got several stents in his heart now," she said. "And after this last stent, we really had a serious talk about just letting it go for now and being happy to be alive. But after a few days, he was just miserable, and he said to me, I would much rather go out kicking it than sitting here in my chair, and that was the last time we talked about it. After that, we just decided to hit the road and ask for God's mercy and do it till we drop. It's just the way you do it when you've lived it your whole life." Rossington maintained that he was also driven to continue out of responsibility to the music and the fans and to the many bandmates he lost along the way. That included the 1977 plane crash that killed singer Ronnie Van Zant, guitarist Steve Gaines, and his older sister Cassie Gaines, another Skynyrd backup singer, which put the band on hiatus for a decade. There were others along the way: guitarist Alan Collins, with whom he formed the Rossington Collins Band from 1979 to 82, original bassist Larry Junstrom, early guitarist Ed King, longtime pianist Leon Wilkson, keyboardist Billy Powell, and later guitarist Huey Thomason among them. I think we're blessed to be able to play and share our music and our band and the stories of Skynyrd and talk about Ronnie, Alan and Steve and all the guys, Billy and Leon now too, all the guys that have left us, Rossington explained. We talk about them and we play, and it's just a great thing to do. Since the plane crash, I'm just thankful to still be here and try to make my way through this life. Rossington was the only Skynyrd member to appear on all of the band's albums, most recently Last of a Dying Breed in 2012. The band did set off on the Last of the Street Survivors farewell tour in 2018, but it was open-ended and morphed into the Big Wheels Keep on Turning tour last year, and the band had the new ZZ Top tour ahead. "We're getting old here," Rossington said in a later interview. "Touring's gotten to be harder, but we still love it. It's just a gas to play to people and see their expression and their feelings. It's just a dream come true, and that's not something you let go of easily." What Skynyrd does now remains to be seen. A few years ago, Johnny Van Zant, who took over frontman duties for his older brother in 1987, noted that Gary's the guy. He's the link to the past, and he's what gives us our authenticity and credibility. I don't think you can have Lynyrd Skynyrd without Gary Rossington. What was clear for the guitarist, however, was that you couldn't have Gary Rossington without Lynyrd Skynyrd, and he left on his terms, still playing those famous guitar licks he was part of creating. Lynyrd Skynyrd albums ranked. From the classic lineup to the reunion era, we rank Skynyrd's LPs from worst to best. Number 14. Christmas Time Again, 2000. Between one of their lowest charting albums and a commercial resurgence, Skynyrd released a festive-free and mostly joyless Christmas album made up of the usual suspects: Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, traditional songs, Green Sleeves, and originals, Skynyrd Family, Stick with Phil Spector's holiday record, or Kermit's. Number 13, God and Guns, 2009. Only Gary Rossington from the band's classic lineup remains on Skynyrd's 13th album. Longtime keyboardist Billy Powell, who died a few months before the album's release, appears on some tracks too. And the band barely sounds like classic Skynyrd at this point, taking on a country rock swagger that's closer to Hank Williams Jr.'s 80s output than to anything the classic group put out in the 70s. Plus, the title track swings in the opposite direction of Ronnie Van Zant's gun control anthem, Saturday Night Special. Number 12, Vicious Cycle, 2003. The band's first album since the death of original bassist Leon Wilkeson also serves as a tribute to him, as well as to many of the other members Skynyrd had lost over the years. Unfortunately, the songs are among the most pandering of their career, barely going beneath the surface of the band's dark history, instead settling into a tired country rock groove that's as old as the group itself. Number 11, Edge of Forever, 1999. Probably the most forgettable Lynyrd Skynyrd album, if not the worst. Edge of Forever seems to have little purpose and less connection to the band's legacy. The dozen songs here are played well enough, even on their worst nights. Skynyrd are one of rock's tightest bands, especially when they steer into blues and country territory, like they do here. Just don't ask us to remember any of them. Number 10, 20, 1997. Like the album that precedes it, 1999's Edge of Forever, 20 is most indistinguishable country rock played with flash and volume. Two Southern rock vets from Blackfoot and the Outlaws joined the band full-time, and Johnny Van Zant gets to duet with his late brother Ronnie on Traveling Man through the magic of technology. Otherwise, it's entirely forgettable. Number 9, The Last Rebel, 1993. By the time of their 7th album, Skynyrd were rotating guys in and out of the lineup with increasing frequency. The Last Rebel is mostly a southern rock call to arms for the 90s, a struggle for survival in a world overtaken by grunge and its alt-rock offshoots. Skynyrd's weariness is very real here. You can hear it in nearly every song. Number 8, Last of a Dying Breed, 2012. By 2012, you pretty much knew what you were getting with the Lynyrd Skynyrd album, and their 14th LP is 45 minutes of non-stop southern rock that barrels down the track with no concern for contemporary sounds or thinking. Whatever subtlety the band once had is long gone by this point. Last of a Dying Breed is the musical equivalent of a one-sided Confederate flag argument. Number 7, Lynyrd Skynyrd, 1991. For Skynyrd's first album in 14 years, and first since the fateful plane crash that forever altered the band's history, they recruited late singer Ronnie Van Zant's brother Johnny. While there's certainly enough southern rock swagger to the songs, the original numbers possess little of the classic lineup's dynamics. It was a welcome return for fans waiting for a new record, but ultimately, it's also a pointless one. Number 6, Endangered Species, 1994. The best album by the reunited Skynyrd features stripped-down arrangements of some of the band's earlier classics like Saturday Night Special and Sweet Home Alabama. There are some new songs here too, plus a down-home casualness lacking in so many of the group's latter records, a temporary break from the noisy bluster. Number 5, Give Me Back My Bullets, 1976. Lynyrd Skynyrd were falling into a bit of a rut by the time of their 4th album. Good news is that it ignited the band on their most adventurous LP, Street Survivors, the following year. It's more of the same expertly played southern rock, with only the swaggering title track standing out from the kinda directionless pack. Number 4, Nothing Fancy, 1975. The first Lynyrd Skynyrd album to reach the top 10, Nothing Fancy, the band's 3rd album, continues their lifelong game of musical chairs. It's both guitarist Ed King's last album until his return in 1991 and drummer Artemis Pyle's first. It doesn't affect much. Ronnie Van Zant is all bluesy and righteous on Saturday Night Special, and the band is down and dirty on Whiskey Rock-a-Roller, workman-like rock and roll. Number 3. Street Survivors, 1977. The last album made by the band's classic lineup before the tragic plane crash that claimed the lives of singer Ronnie Van Zant and guitarist Steve Gaines, Street Survivors remains the band's most energetic and adventurous LP. Released just 3 days before the crash, the album plays around with backing singers and horn arrangements. Would Skynyrd have continued to move in this direction? Hard to say. When the band regrouped with Van Zant's brother on vocals 14 years later, they were deep in blustery and country rock territory. Number 2. Second Helping, 1974. Skynyrd's sophomore album gave them their biggest hit, Sweet Home Alabama, and Ed King moved over to guitar full-time, setting in place the band's classic triple guitar attack displayed best on the album's closer, Call Me the Breeze. In a way, Second Helping is the most representative Lynyrd Skynyrd LP, Southern rock with a conscience and attitude to spare. Number 1. Pronounced Lynyrd Skynyrd, 1973. Skynyrd's debut album that includes all of the band's hallmarks, albeit in primal form at times. There's multi-guitar attacks, The End of Free Bird is still a thrill, Wistful Reflection, Tuesday's Gone, humor, Give Me 3 Steps, and the sort of down-home philosophizing that both distanced them from and set the template for 70s Southern rock, Simple Man. More so than any of their other records, Pronounced Lynyrd Skynyrd is filled with great songs, ones that would stay in their set lists for years and help build their legacy, a classic of its era and genre.